Farming games have taken the gaming industry by storm. This is due to their cozy gameplay, adorable characters, and chilled out vibe. But what if gamers are looking for a little more adrenaline to accompany their relaxation?
Freeze, Logan. We got you now.
Good day.
Consarn it.
Today on Game Rant, we'll be covering some of the best farming games that also include combat. Up first, we've got Stardew Valley. Over the years, Stardew Valley has become synonymous with farming games that offer a combat twist. Players take on the role of restoring a rundown farm through growing crops, raising animals, and building relationships with the residents of Pelican Town. But of course, combat plays a big part throughout the gameplay, offering players the chance to fight monsters in either the mines or the Skull Cavern, where players can level up their combat level to gain more HP for their character. Up next, we've got My Time at Portia. Though the hype surrounding this game has died down a bit since its initial release, that doesn't make it any less of a fantastic farming game with combat. The game starts with a player's character arriving in Portia on a mission to restore their pa's neglected workshop and get it back to its former glory. They do this through fulfilling commissions, farming, raising animals, and befriending the inhabitants of the post-apocalyptic town. One of the positives for our more relaxed gamers is that dying doesn't yield any adverse effects. Players just get to have another go and pick up right where they left off. It's also quite easy to get the hang of the fighting system, as it's limited to both regular and special attacks, as well as dodging. My Time at Sandrock, the sequel to My Time at Portia, also makes our list. Unsurprisingly, players will find a lot of similarities between this title and its predecessor, thanks to its fun yet chilled out combat. My Time at Sandrock takes place in a post-apocalyptic world 300 days after the Day of Calamity destroyed most modern technologies. It also includes all of the farming, combat, and relationship making that was present in My Time at Portia, except it's set in a different town. Not only is the combat easy, but it also doesn't produce any real consequences if the player is defeated. The fighting elements are definitely there, but the game focuses on its farming aspects first and foremost. Alright, now let's talk about Harvestella. In a universe where players explore an imaginative fantasy world through the changing seasons, growing crops, and befriending the inhabitants, Harvestella brings dynamic combat to solve the mystery of Quietus, the season of death. On the surface, the combat for Harvestella seems simple, but there's a lot more depth to it than you'd think. It's in a real-time action style, and each attack and skill used will consume stamina, giving an added challenge to this JRPG-styled farming sim. Not to worry though, because if players run out, it can be replenished by either eating or sleeping until the following day. Then, we have Craftopia. It's an open-world adventure game that includes features such as crafting, farming, and of course, combat. There are over 20 crops for players to grow, as well as agricultural machines that can be used to speed up the process. The combat element is added in the form of dungeon exploration. When the detector starts beeping, it means a dangerous dungeon is nearby. In these areas, players will encounter bosses in the hopes of finding treasures and new abilities. Next up, we have Sunhaven. The town of Sunhaven has been struck by dark magic, and it's the player's responsibility to build the farm of their dreams through a little bit of money and some rusty tools. In addition to this, growing crops, raising livestock, crafting items, mining ores, and defeating bosses are all a huge part of the gameplay. To get used to the in-game combat, players go to the combat dungeon where they can test their abilities, but also be rewarded with permanent combat-enhancing items. The players can also enter the boss arena to fight bosses of varying levels, and once it's all said and done, they will be rewarded with more items. And finally, Fay Farm. This is a hot new cozy game that sees players living in Azoria, meeting an array of personalities, and gaining relationships, all while infusing magic into everything like crafting, cooking, and potion making. Cozy gamers don't need to worry about Fay Farm being stressful, as the combat is approached in a very straightforward manner. Fighting involves walking up to an enemy, hitting them 3 times, and dodging attacks. Magic can also help players during combat, but isn't necessary. And that sums up the best farming games with combat. Thank you for stopping by Game Rant, and until next time, happy farming.